you're going to play, go big. Chasing an upset is where the excitement lies. Huh, you. The sheltered rich kid wouldn't understand, Su Wei retorted defiantly. This is about leveraging small investments for greater returns. Just as the ancient tale of Chun Daozi turned 20 yuan into 37 million, I too can turn 300 into 30 million. Besides, upsets aren't that easy to come by. Brazil losing in their home opener? That's as unlikely as a pie falling from the sky. Huang Mingzhi continued to immerse himself in his book, tuning out their conversation. When Su Wei mentioned the risky bet, he furrowed his brow, seemingly on the verge of speaking, but ultimately chose silence. Wang Gan sat before his computer, appearing to browse the internet, yet his mind was racing, sifting through the fragmented memories of the 2014 World Cup in Brazil from his past life. Su Wei was indeed correct. Brazil was a favorite to win, especially playing on home soil during the opening match, with nearly everyone anticipating an effortless victory. However, a subtle smile crept onto Wang Gan's lips, an expression only he could decipher. He vividly recalled that this seemingly straightforward match was fraught with unexpected twists. Shortly after the match commenced, Brazilian defender Marcelo inadvertently scored an own goal, granting Croatia an early lead. This unforeseen blunder sent countless bettors who had wagered on a decisive Brazilian victory into a frenzy of despair. Ultimately, thanks to Neymar's 2 goals and Oscar's contribution, Brazil managed to turn the tide, winning 3-1. Yet, the journey and outcome held immense potential for those who sought high odds. A 3-1 scoreline. Wang Gan's heart raced at the thought. He remembered well that this match was laden with drama, particularly due to that own goal. In his previous life, he hadn't participated in the betting, but as a football fan, he was well aware of the opening match. Su Wei had rambled on about it for quite some time, and post-match analyses flooded the media, with the score of 3-1 and Marcelo's own goal being frequently highlighted. The odds for score betting are typically quite high. He immediately opened a sports news website and navigated to the World Cup section to check the odds for the match between Brazil and Croatia. Indeed, the odds for a win, draw, or loss were not particularly favorable. Brazil's victory stood at around 13, a draw at 45, while Croatia's win soared to a staggering 100. However, upon clicking the score betting option, a series of astonishing numbers appeared before him. 10 with odds of 65, 20 with odds of 70, 21 with odds of 90, and 31 with odds reaching a remarkable 150. 15 times. Wang Gan's breath quickened at that moment. This indicated that if he invested 10,000 yuan and predicted the score at 31, he could transform it into 150,000. 150,000. This sum, in 2014, would indeed be a substantial fortune for an ordinary university student. It would be sufficient for him to achieve initial capital accumulation, laying a solid foundation for subsequent ventures. Besides the opening match, vague memories of other key matches flashed through Wang Gan's mind. For instance, the defending champion Spain were shockingly eliminated in the group stage, apparently suffering a significant defeat in their first match against the Netherlands. Was it 5-1? The odds were undoubtedly explosive. And then there was the host nation, Brazil, who faced a 7-1 defeat against Germany in the semifinals. A veritable tragedy in football history. The odds for that match were beyond imagination. Fragmented yet crucial pieces of information gradually coalesced in Wang Gan's mind, forming a treasure map leading to financial freedom. The World Cup was, without a doubt, a divine gift bestowed upon him, a reborn individual. It was the optimal leverage for quickly amassing his first pot of gold and propelling his future aspirations. After the initial excitement, Wang Gan swiftly regained his composure. Mere information without capital rendered everything futile. He opened his Alipay wallet and glanced at his balance. 5,230 yuan and 50 cents. This was the money from selling concert tickets, combined with the mere 200 yuan he had left for living expenses upon his rebirth. Over 5,000 yuan, even if entirely invested in winning at 15 times, would yield only a little over 70,000. While that was considerable, it fell far short of his ambitious goals. Furthermore, opportunities in the World Cup extended beyond the opening match. Many more high-odds games awaited him. He needed more capital to maximize these informational advantages. A starting fund of at least 10,000 yuan was essential, perhaps even more. But where would the money come from? Should he ask his family? No. He had just sought financial assistance for concert tickets. Moreover, he was aware that in a year, the family factory would face difficulties. He could not further burden his parents. Borrowing from classmates? Wang Gan's gaze swept over his 3 dormitory mates. Sue, he was unreliable, being poorer than Wang himself. That 300 yuan was likely all he possessed. Huang Mingzhi, even less likely, as he had just been lecturing on the topic and would certainly refuse to lend money for gambling. Gulin Feng, he might be a possibility. Though somewhat proud, he likely had a more comfortable financial situation. But how could Wang Gan broach the subject? What rationale could he provide? Aside from his roommates, who else could he turn to? In Wang Gan's mind, he swiftly began to sift through the intricate web of connections from his past and present. Eureka! An idea struck him. Borrowing money served not merely to amass capital, but also to gauge the sincerity of human hearts. In his previous life, he had tasted the bitter fruits of friendship and betrayal, discerning the true nature of relationships. However, in this new life, he was determined to become a magnate. When that time arrived, outright rejection of those who had turned their backs on him would only serve to cast him in a negative light. It would be far wiser to take the initiative. By borrowing money now, he could delineate a clear boundary in his future social interactions. Chapter 5. Borrowing money to test human hearts with his plans set. Wang Gan promptly sprang into action. He quickly located the high school class group, known as the Jiangbei Youth League. The conversation within the group was lively, a testament to the carefree nature of students, in stark contrast to the desolate silence that would envelop the group years later. Topics ranged from celebrity obsessions to gaming critiques, and even to romantic gossip. Naturally, the impending World Cup was also a hot topic. Wang Gan chose not to engage in the discussions. Instead, he crafted a concise message and opted for a group distribution. He was wise enough not to broadcast his request publicly. Rather, he selected a one-on-one approach to sidestep any potential awkwardness or gossip. The message was simple. He was currently facing a tight financial situation and sought assistance in the form of a loan. Just a few hundred would suffice, with the promise of repayment once his monthly allowance arrived. He had prepared a plausible excuse, claiming he had recently purchased a few items and had exhausted his living expenses. This rationale was quite reasonable for a college student known for being somewhat extravagant. Wang Gan meticulously selected a dozen or so acquaintances with whom he shared a decent rapport or who he anticipated might intersect with his future. He harbored modest expectations, having witnessed the fickleness of human nature in his past life. After all, he was invoking the ultimate test of character, borrowing money. As he had anticipated, once the message was dispatched, most recipients fell silent, akin to stones cast into a lake, creating not even the slightest ripple. A few closer acquaintances replied, but their responses bore a striking similarity. Wang Gan. Unfortunately, I'm also in a tight spot right now. I just bought a new phone, paid for tutoring, and am planning a trip. Borrow money? I'm sorry, my allowance is managed by my mother, and I don't have much left myself. Perhaps another time. This just isn't convenient. A series of polite refusals and insincere niceties ensued. Wang Gan read these replies with an unperturbed heart. He had endured far harsher realities in his previous life, and such trivial indifference could no longer wound him. Just as he was about to abandon this endeavor, an unexpected response appeared. It was from Yao Jiqiang, a classmate who had sat behind him in high school, somewhat awkward and earnest in disposition, yet a genuinely good person. Their friendship was not exceptionally close, yet they occasionally played basketball together or discussed video games. Yao Jiqiang's reply was refreshingly direct. How much do you need? I still have 800. Will that suffice? If not, I can lend you a bit more. Upon reading this message, a warmth spread through Wang Gan's heart. He recalled that during his most challenging times in his previous life, it was this very Yao Jiqiang who had unhesitatingly lent him 20,000 yuan. The money was not repaid until just before his rebirth. Little did he expect that in this life, the first person to extend a helping hand would still be this honest man. Enough. Thank you so much, Jiqiang. Wang Gan quickly replied. I will repay you the living expenses next month. It's nothing, no rush. Yao Jiqiang promptly responded, then directly transferred 800 yuan. Wang Gan accepted the transfer, silently noting to himself, Yao Jiqiang, this favor, this kindness, I shall repay you manifold in the future. Soon after, another classmate replied. It was Zhou Xingjie, his desk mate from high school, with whom he shared a fairly good relationship, often skipping classes together to go to internet cafes. Ganzi, short on cash? How much do you need? I just got some pocket money from home. I can lend you 2,000 without a problem. Vangan Tutklet, thinking that this guy was probably concocting another excuse to swindle money from his girlfriend. Their relationship was rather complicated, but many events had yet to unfold, so he decided to address it later. All right, thanks, brother. You're my savior. Vangan replied. Shortly, Zhou Xingjie transferred 2,000 yuan through Alipay. Another acquaintance, Zhang Bo, who was a middle school classmate and with whom he had a relatively ordinary relationship, also replied, I only have 500 left, but I can lend it to you for emergencies. Thanks. Wang Gan expressed his gratitude, accepting the 500 yuan. Unsurprisingly, as Wang Gan had anticipated, only these three friends from his past life extended their support in times of need. It is indeed curious how one's perception of steadfast allies can starkly contrast with reality. Those whom one least expects may offer the most delightful surprises. Although the debts from his previous life had been settled, there was little in the way of further returns. However, this life was different. I will elevate you all, he proclaimed. Thus far, he had borrowed a total of 3,300 yuan, 800, 2,000, and 500. Coupled with his existing 5,200, he now had approximately 8,500 yuan at his disposal. Still a tad short of his 10,000 yuan goal. Wang Gan's gaze shifted toward his three dormitory mates. If he could not borrow from them, he would have to resort to seeking credit from Dongge. Yet, he had vowed in his previous life, having suffered the burdens of debt, that he did not wish to engage with capitalists. Clearing his throat, he spoke. Hey guys, I'm a bit strapped for cash lately. Could you lend me some for emergencies? I'll pay you back next month. Su Wei was the first to react, his face contorted in despair. Ganzi, it's not that I don't want to help you. I'm truly broke. Look at my entire fortune, just 300 yuan. I'm even planning to gamble on the World Cup. He rummaged through his pockets, revealing only a few crumpled coins and a single 100 yuan note. Wang Gan recognized Su Wei's genuine poverty and did not expect much from him, chuckling softly. All right, I know you're broke. Put that away and save it for instant noodles. Next, he turned his attention to Huang Mingzhi. As anticipated, Huang furrowed his brow, set down his book, and spoke with solemnity. Wang Gan, you just said you wouldn't be a sycophant anymore. I thought you had truly awakened. Why do you need to borrow money again? Are you planning to buy something to impress a girl? You're not going to be influenced by Su Wei and start betting on football, are you? I must tell you, indulging in gambling is an endeavor best avoided. It is akin to stepping into a fiery pit. Lending you money would only lead to your ruin. This sum I cannot part with. Wang Gan remained silent, his ears receiving a lecture delivered with righteous fervor. Internally, he scoffed, too weary to offer an explanation, and instead shifted his gaze toward Gu Linfeng. Gu Linfeng, intrigued, met his gaze and raised an eyebrow. Oh, how much do you wish to borrow? 2,000. Wang Gan replied, wary of the butterfly effect, leaving a margin for living expenses. In such a scenario, he would be forced to toil away, saving up for what he desired. No matter how the wings of a butterfly might flutter, they would not deter him from becoming a wealthy gentleman. What do you need the money for? Surely you don't intend to court Wu Yiwei again? If you still have her in your thoughts, I cannot lend you this money. Wang Gan met his gaze with composure, responding, rest assured, it has nothing to do with her. I am simply in a tight spot and need to make ends meet. He paused, adding, moreover, a little gambling can be entertaining. I wish to test my luck during the World Cup. Wang Gan did not reveal the entire truth, but he did divulge a fragment of information. He understood that Gu Linfeng, a second-generation affluent individual, often found topics of making money and investment intriguing, and he was relatively open to risk. Upon hearing Wang Gan express his desire to try his luck, Gu Linfeng's eyes brightened, seemingly piqued by interest. He scrutinized Wang Gan, as if to ascertain whether he had indeed severed ties with Wu Yiwei. Observing Wang Gan's candid gaze and the resolute manner in which he had previously confronted Wu Yiwei and blocked her number, Gu Linfeng nodded. He recognized that Wang Gan's family was fairly well off. His father owned a small factory, not comparable to his own wealth, but certainly not in a position to default. Furthermore, Wang Gan's recent decisive break with Wu Yiwei had earned him a newfound respect. Very well. Gu Linfeng responded with alacrity, retrieving his phone from his wallet. Alipay or WeChat. But remember, you must repay me next month. I'm a bit tight on funds myself, as I recently set my sights on a new watch. No problem. Thank you. Brother Feng. Wang Gan felt a surge of joy. He had not anticipated Gu Linfeng's willingness. It seemed his previous assessment was correct, despite his aloof demeanor. This young man possessed a fundamentally good heart and a sense of loyalty. It's a small matter. Gu Linfeng waved his hand dismissively, swiftly transferring 2,000 yuan via Alipay. A notification chimed. The funds had been successfully transferred. Wang Gan observed his wallet balance swell to 305 yuan, and he finally exhaled in relief. The initial capital of 10,000 was now secured. This episode of borrowing reaffirmed his understanding of the individuals surrounding him. Yao Jiqiang and Zhou Xingjie were true friends who offered assistance in times of need. Zhang Bo was an acquaintance of decent standing. Gu Linfeng, though they had not interacted extensively after graduation in his past life, proved to be a worthy ally through his willingness to lend money. As for those who had declined or dismissed him, along with the preachy Huang Mingzhi, Wang Gan silently categorized them, resolving to maintain his distance moving forward. In this new life, he not only aimed to accumulate wealth, but also to sharpen his discernment, distinguishing allies from adversaries, and establishing a genuinely reliable network. He intended to avoid repeating the mistakes of his previous existence, where he was ensnared by the deceitful and burdened by petty individuals. This was merely the beginning. Chapter 6. All in with the funds secured, Wang Gan no longer hesitated and immediately focused his attention on the impending World Cup opening match. With less than 10 hours remaining until the kickoff between Brazil and Croatia at 4 o'clock in the morning, he needed to place his bet of 10,000 yuan, a sum imbued with trust and human sentiment, symbolizing his hopes for a resurgence in life. In 2014, it was the golden age of rampant growth for online lottery in the country, marking the last period of its splendor. The regulatory environment had yet to tighten, and major internet giants had eagerly entered the fray, launching their own lottery platforms amid fierce competition. Users could conveniently purchase a variety of sports lottery tickets, including World Cup predictions, through their computers or mobile phones. Wang Gan opened his computer and adeptly entered several website addresses into his browser. There were numerous options, including Penguin Lottery, Tao Lottery under Ali, Pig Farm Lottery, Zhalong's Lottery, and a plethora of other well-known vertical lottery sites of the time. Although he had not engaged much in these platforms in his previous life, he was not unfamiliar with them. He understood that these platforms were backed by substantial corporations, ensuring a relatively reliable reputation. At least during this period in 2014, withdrawals were still quite smooth. However, to mitigate risk and avoid putting all his eggs in one basket, Wang Gan resolved to diversify his bets. After all, no one could guarantee that a particular platform would not experience sudden malfunctions or technical difficulties. Although 150,000 yuan was but a trifling amount for these major companies, he adhered to the principle of prudence. This was his capital for takeoff, deserving of careful consideration. He ultimately selected 5 platforms that boasted the highest user volume and best reputations: Penguin, Ali, Pig Farm, Zhalong, and 500 Lottery. He then proceeded to register accounts, link his bank card, and complete real name verification. These procedures were second nature to someone who had been reborn. He deliberately used an infrequently used savings card under his name, which had a near-zero balance, specifically designated for this lottery operation. Once everything was in place, Wang Gan embarked on his first bet. Contemplating the art of wagering, he realized that 500 yuan in change would serve little purpose, especially since he was bound to work soon. 30 yuan would suffice for half a month's worth of steam buns. Thus, he meticulously divided the total sum of 10,500 yuan into 5 portions of 2,100 yuan each. He opened the Penguin Lottery interface, located the match between Brazil and Croatia, selected the score option, found 31, entered the amount of 2,100, and confirmed the bet. He repeated the same process for Tao Lottery, finding 31, entering 2,100, and confirming. This routine continued seamlessly through NetEase Lottery, Zhalong Lottery, and finally 500 Lottery. 5 bets in total, amounting to 10,500 yuan, all staked on the specific score of Brazil 3, Croatia 1. With the confirmation message from the last platform appearing, Wang Gan let out a long sigh of relief. All was prepared. He was merely awaiting the favorable winds. Now, he merely needs to patiently await the outcome of the match at 4 o'clock in the morning. If successful, his investment would swell from 10,000 to 150,000. The vast ocean allows fish to leap, and the high sky permits birds to soar. However, should he fail, he would lose not only the 10,000 yuan, but also the most convenient path to rebirth. Nevertheless, Wang Gan harbors no concerns regarding defeat. He hails from the future and possesses an abundance of knowledge. When one door closes, another opens. He is unperturbed by the prospect of failure. This seemingly divine assurance imbues him with unparalleled confidence. "Brother Gan, are you studying this too?" Su Wei approached, peering at the betting interface on Wang Gan's computer screen. "So, have you decided which bet to place? Do you need my advice?" Wang Gan nonchalantly closed the betting record page and switched to the match information, replying coolly, "Just browsing. I plan to wager on Brazil winning for a bit of fun. Great minds think alike, but the odds are too low. I'm contemplating a bet of 100 on a score of 3-0. Wagering on Brazil to win?" Gu Linfeng scoffed. "The odds are dismal, merely 13. It lacks excitement. I've researched it, and Croatia's midfield is formidable, with Modric and Rakitic. What if there's an upset?" "Upset?" Su Wei laughed derisively. "Foam. Do you understand the game? In Brazil's home opener, how could there possibly be an upset? I'm confident Brazil will win by at least 2 goals. Gu Linfeng, with a hint of provocation, retorted, "It's pointless to discuss with someone like you. Everyone knows Brazil will win. I'm aiming for something thrilling. I'll bet 5,000 on Brazil losing. A gamble could turn a bicycle into a motorcycle." "Wow, Brother Feng, you're incredible." Su Wei, unbothered by the insult, exclaimed in amazement. 5,000 on Brazil losing? The odds are 100. If you win, that's 50,000. But the risk is immense. Gu Linfeng proudly lifted his chin. "It's all about the thrill. If I lose, it's just pocket money gone. If I win, I'll treat you all to a grand feast." Su Wei chuckled. "That sounds delightful, but I still believe Brazil is a safe bet. I've made my decision. 100 on Brazil winning. Though modest, it's the participation that matters." 100? Even if you win, you'll only make 30. Is that enough for a pack of cigarettes? Didn't you want to emulate Chendea's eye? Why back down now? 30 is still money. "I don't smoke," Su Wei retorted defiantly. "Besides, Brazil will definitely win. Emulating Deazai doesn't mean being reckless." As the two exchanged banter, Wang Gan listened quietly, refraining from interjecting. Suddenly, Gu Linfeng recalled something and asked Wang Gan, "By the way, Wang Gan, how much are you planning to invest? Didn't you say you want to test your luck?" Wang Gan smiled and feigned casualness. "I'll just play a little. I'll wager 2,000 on Brazil winning." He deliberately withheld the truth. Firstly, he wished to avoid drawing too much attention, and secondly, he aimed to evade unnecessary complications. If they were to discover that he had placed a full bet of 10,000 on the score with odds of 15, they would likely deem him insane, and Huang Mingzhi's preaching would surely follow. Even disregarding the noise, once the results were announced, a typical university student winning such a substantial sum would undoubtedly stir commotion. Faced with such a rare opportunity, Wang Gan simply wished to amass wealth quietly. 2,000 on Brazil winning? Gu Linfeng was somewhat taken aback, but soon came to a realization. It was indeed prudent to proceed with caution. This was far superior to Su Wei's mere 100 yuan. Su Wei muttered from the side, "Winning 2,000 only nets us 600. It's hardly substantial." Wang Gan chose not to respond further and quietly closed the webpage. The bet had been placed, and now all that remained was to await the moment of revelation. He glanced at the clock on his computer. It was just past 6 in the evening. There were still over 9 hours until the match commenced. The anticipation felt interminable. A true torment for Wang Gan. Chapter 7. Watching the game at the Internet CAF with real money on the line, the three of them became intensely focused, incessantly refreshing the webpage in vain. Su Wei was so absorbed that he lacked the motivation to play games, instead engrossed in refining his betting notebook, which he had made quite elaborate. Although Gu Linfeng boasted grandly, 5,000 yuan was still a considerable sum for him. Wang Gan estimated his monthly allowance to be around 10,000 yuan. Even with various expenses, it would not exceed 20,000. Only Huang Mingzhi remained detached, rising to say, "If we don't head to the cafeteria soon, it will close. Are you all coming? Let us go. There is plenty of time before the match starts. We should fill our stomachs to enjoy the game tonight." Wang Gan and his roommates proceeded to the school cafeteria. He ordered a meal consisting of 2 meat dishes and 1 vegetable, with rice available for an additional 50 cents, totaling a mere 8 yuan. As he surveyed the generous portions of braised pork and scrambled eggs with tomatoes on his tray, he couldn't help but feel nostalgic. How affordable it was. The prices from over a decade ago felt like paradise. He contemplated how, in 2025, the same meal would cost no less than 20 yuan, while wages had barely increased. Delivering takeout was exhausting, with each order yielding only a few yuan. The feeling of rebirth was truly delightful. As he dined, he listened to the surrounding students fervently discussing the World Cup, the favorites for the championship, the star players in peak form, and the so-called group of death. The atmosphere was as if the World Cup had already begun. After finishing dinner and returning to the dormitory, there was still ample time. Su Wei eagerly booted up his old desktop computer, the fan's noise resembling a chainsaw. "Su Wei, when will you replace that decrepit computer? It's incredibly disruptive, you know." "Wen Xiao, why don't you consider sponsoring a new one?" Su Wei retorted, resuming his analysis of the odds for other group matches. Mumbling to himself, like a professional betting analyst, Huang Mingzhi remained steadfast at his desk, continuing to study his professional books, oblivious to the surrounding clamor. Feeling disenchanted by the previous exchange, Gu Linfeng resolved not to be taken advantage of, as Su Wei was not his child. He then made a phone call, seemingly inviting a friend to watch the game together that evening. "Hello, are you going to watch the World Cup opener tonight? Same place, 0 Hour Bar. I've already reserved a booth." "Yes, absolutely. Let us create a lively atmosphere." "All right, see you then." After hanging up, Gu Linfeng glanced at the others in the dormitory, a hint of superiority in his voice as he declared, "I'm heading out to watch the game tonight. Anyone else interested? 0 Hour Bar, I'll cover the drinks. But you'll have to pay for your own entry." Su Wei's eyes lit up at the prospect, but upon hearing about the entry fee, his enthusiasm waned. "A bar? Isn't that place too expensive? I shall head to the Internet CAF, where I can also indulge in a few rounds of gaming." Huang Mingzhi, without lifting his head, replied, "I won't go. It would hinder my studies. Moreover, staying up late is detrimental to one's health." Gu Linfeng shrugged, turning his gaze towards Wang Gan. "What about you, Wang Gan? Are you going to the bar? The ambience is far superior to that of an Internet CAF." Wang Gan chuckled and shook his head. "Thanks, Feng Ge, but I'll just go to the Internet CAF with Su Wei. The bar is too noisy. I fear I won't be able to see the match clearly." He was undoubtedly aware that the bar offered a better environment, and perhaps even some romantic opportunities. For a man who had not experienced the pleasures of companionship for nearly a decade, such prospects were indeed alluring. However, as his pocket contained a mere 30 yuan, only 22 now, perhaps for a quick bite, he decided against it. "All right, suit yourself," Gu Linfeng said, not pressing the matter further. He grabbed his coat. "I shall take my leave then. You two do as you wish." After Gu Linfeng departed, the dormitory fell into a quieter state. Wang Gan lay back on his bed, eyes closed, yet his mind raced with thoughts of future opportunities for wealth. The prices should be quite high now, likely several $100s. Alas, he lacked the funds to invest. The bull market had yet to commence. As for real estate, that was even more unattainable. He could scarcely afford a single brick of cement at present. At 10 o'clock, the power in the dormitory was cut off promptly. The room was plunged into darkness, and Su Wei's electric saw came to an immediate halt. "Let us go, Gonggu, to the Internet CAF." Su Wei rose, appearing somewhat eager. "All right, let's go." With a swift motion, Wang Gan sprang up, grabbing his phone and wallet. The two made their way out of the dormitory, heading towards a nearby street known for its vices. This so-called debauched street was, in reality, a thoroughfare lined with an array of food stalls, budget hotels, an Internet CAFs, a favorite haunt for university students seeking nocturnal revelry. Entering an Internet CAF named Fate CAF, they were immediately greeted by an overwhelming emlang of smoke and instant noodle aromas. The proprietor was quite astute in his business practices, adorning the walls with television